All right, so this is February 12th, and I was tempted to go ride my bike, but honestly, I'll just do some more conditioning work. And about all morning, it's about 11:20 now, I've been dragging. Um, and been debating what to do. And again, this goes back to the idea of I don't have a set written training plan. I just do what I feel I need to do and what I am capable of doing in that day. This is probably contrary to what most coaches say to do. So, for example, if a coach writes a training plan, this is the accepted version of what happens, and the athlete cannot complete that prescribed workout for the day. You just skip it, and then you move on. And I agree with that for the most part, because if you are working with the idea that you've been consistent with your training, missing one prescribed workout is not going to kill you. And this is like the big thing that I learned over the years. And I always felt like I was under the gun as far as time was concerned, that I was always playing catch up. Because I was a guy in his late 30s trying to relive his youth and trying to reclaim what he was when he was in his mid 20s. And with that drive, I ended up surpassing who I was in my mid 20s, and then like wildly exceeding that. But that said, that drive is because I felt like there was a monkey on my back, and just like, you got to go. And I was super motivated, and I didn't want to miss workouts. And that's the thing that I've learned, is you got to listen to your body. And this is one of these things where it's hard to explain to someone who's younger, because you have so much energy and recovery. But at a certain point, that starts to wane, and you got to know that that's coming. And you got to accept that, and you have to be mindful of that, because when you start having signs of overtraining, most young people don't know what that is. And most males will do the same thing, and they'll rationalize it away. It's like, oh, I'm like I suck, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's your body telling you you're fatigued a lot of times. And that was the big thing for me, is to learn to know when my body was fatigued. And two of the things I would tell someone immediately are the signs you're being fatigued. If you get sick frequently, if you get colds frequently, you are probably overtrained. All things being equal, that you're not surrounded by disease-ridden people, and like if you're a teacher or you work at a hospital, but all things being equal, if you're training a lot, the volume's high, the intensity's high, and you're starting to get sick, you're overtrained. And the other dead giveaway is if you can't sleep. If you start to lose sleep, and that's the irony, right? Your body's tired, but you're so tired and so wired, and your body is in such a state of chronic fatigue that you can't get rest. And that's why monitoring sleep is great, or even just keeping a journal. And what I use is this app called, I've tried everything. What I use is a thing, Sleep Cycle. I got it years and years ago on iOS, and it has I've got grandfathered in, and it has a lifetime subscription. But I like it because it uses the microphone to listen to your snoring, and it's pretty damn accurate. And the other thing is that, again, it listens to you tossing and turning, making noises and moving, and knows you're not sleeping well. And the nice thing is that it has an little alarm, and it wakes you up however way you want, and can also control a hue light. But also, what the cool thing is, and it's just very simple and very quick, is when you wake up, it just asks you straight up, how did you feel on a scale of 4 emojis or 3 emojis? Was it a good night's sleep, a meh night's sleep, or a crappy night's sleep? And hit bam, 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 and you move on your day. And this whether or not the data in the micro is useful, but on the macro, if you ever go back and look at it, it's like, oh yeah, I had a spate of like 5 days where I slept like crap, and I was getting sick, and my performances doing blah 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 were in the pit. It's like, well, you were fatigued, and it's good to just have that data. That's why I really regret not having a journal. And the easier a journal or way of recording how you feel, the easier you make it, the better it is. You don't have to go into quick detail. I mean, you don't have to go into in-depth detail. Just be quick, because quick means you're more likely to do it. And if you have to go write down and type out a laborious, and if you can't type, and have to type out a laborious explanation of how you felt, then that's just not going to do it. Like, I was thinking the other day, like, my journal, I'm looking down my journal, is chicken scratch, but it doesn't matter, because I'm just getting the information down, and I don't have to know every single word that I wrote. You know, I can figure it out out of context, but it's just a matter of just getting it down. So anyway, back to that, what a tangent, but back to like my workout. I'm going to go just do the VersaClimber. Just going to go chill as much as you can on the VersaClimber, do some strength and conditioning. Like I said yesterday, my hands feel freaking great. What I had forgot coming back to the gym is how much it hurts to hold a ring, like hang by a ring like that, because it just digs into your hands. And just hanging on a bar hanging on a bar and like landing on a bar, just it really, really works. It really hurts your hands, and if you're not used to it, it hasn't deadened your nerves. But yesterday my hands felt amazing. You know, I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop where like I couldn't hang on anymore. I just had it, and like this morning was nice because I felt the calluses forming on my hand, and more importantly, the calluses were forming, but there wasn't pain associated with it. So like, that's awesome. So I'm just going to go in the next few days and just kind of work with the pumice stone on my hands and on the calluses, try to work those down. And that's a good sign. And I'll do some bar traverses to see how my hands feel today. But yeah, it's a strength and conditioning day. I'm going to do some leg stuff, so I better get moving. Nate is going to go. My son's going to go back to school in a few hours. And anyway, talk to you guys in a bit.
So, I used to always think, until I was probably 45, that I lacked the capacity to suffer, which for me, I lacked the capacity to suffer in that I was a quitter. In cycling, your capacity to suffer is, I think, one of the metrics that determines your success. In fact, across all disciplines. I would go to say it's probably for all sports how much you can suffer, but definitely for cycling, I can only speak to experience, and that your capacity to suffer in cycling determines your ultimate ability, however you end up. So it was, one of my favorite events of all time is the 1 kilometer time trial, 1,000 meters, and you're by yourself. It's a time trial, and it is the most difficult race of all of cycling. Not difficult. It's the toughest, most brutal single event in cycling, because it is way too long for a sprint and way too short for an endurance ride. So it's this middle ground where it is a testament to how much you can suffer. And I saw it as a source of pride to get better at that. And I finally got better at it. And that's when I knew that I had crossed this threshold of being a quitter and someone who couldn't suffer to someone who could suffer. Not only suffer, but embrace the suck. And that's what it's about, embracing the suck. That's one of these life lessons also. This is one of the reasons why I love doing the VersaClimber, because I knew how much it sucked when I started, and it wasn't too long ago. And to see where I am today on it. And that's how I view a lot of the things that I do, is not so much how much I can suffer, but how much I can improve. And I don't think ninja is or strength training for that matter, is much of a how much you can suffer. Because not taking anything away, it's not nearly as much suffering as you have in cycling or any high intensity aerobic event. That it's one of those moments, those kind of events and training sessions is where you're really questioning your life choices, and you literally want to throw up. And I can't see, with any strength or just straight up strength or ninja stuff where you'd want to throw up in the end. Anyway, so my advice to someone who wants to improve themselves in any kind of aerobic sport is embrace the suck, and you have to embrace the suck. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve of what the higher end people are doing. And yeah, I mean, that was probably the biggest character development lesson that I learned from cycling, was going from a guy who thought he was a quitter and who was weak, mentally weak, because suffering is about mental fortitude, not physical fortitude as much. And going to a person who was willing to suffer, loved suffering, because he saw what you get at the end of all of that suffering. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my strength workout so I don't have to suffer anymore. Oh, and the other thing that allows you to suffer better is having a good playlist. So it was cool having Never Let Me Down pop up on my playlist at the very last 3 minutes of my climb, because it's such a classic song, and I thought it was awesome that they put it in Last of Us at the end of episode 2. Anyway, back to work.
So I still stand by the idea that these sliders are an awesome tool. They're really good at warming you up for that move I just did. I actually, for once, warmed up slightly and stretched out my hips using this by doing this. Again, these are great because you can just throw them in your gym bag if you work out at the gym, or just leave them around. And because it's an active stretch. The thing about static stretches is that they're static, and so you're not actually activating the muscles that you're going to use for the workout. I don't really believe in stretching before working out, but definitely in something like this, a reverse lunge, where it's a movement you're not used to doing, loaded like that, and it's a lot of range of motion, because really that reverse lunge is pretty much the longest gait you're going to have possibly that you could sustain with a load. You're never going to go like this with something, but this you can do because you're bearing all the weight on this 90-degree forward facing leg. So yeah, so warming up with a slider for that exercise is a great idea, because unless you use a hamstring glider like I have, which is totally impractical, to try to cart that around and drag it across the room for a workout, where this, you just yank it out, do a quick series of these, 4 reps per side, and then go hit it. It's a great exercise. So even last night, it dawned on me, like, duh, Will, why don't you do the Cossack squat with these? Hear your knees pop, which is totally normal. This is actually kind of cool. Again, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. I'm going to explore this more in the future. Anyway, thought I'd mention that. I was debating whether or not to use chalk for this, but I went without, and we're going to practice with legs up. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so I just did 4 sets of those traverses, each one going further and further. each rep. And I ended up doing 4 traverses at that last one. And I think that's enough. My hands are kind of toast. So it was like that 2, then I did like 2.5, then 3, and then 4. My math is right. This is one thing that I found is interesting. When I was younger, and this is where old man strength comes in, or cumulative training effect. When I was younger, even sprinting on a bike, we can literally measure how much power we put out by a watt, a tiny amount. So we have, it used to be I could sprint. My first sprint was the most powerful one, and then I would just drop. Each successive one after that would just drop off a cliff. And as I've noticed me training consistently over the years, that drop actually got inverted, or it plateaued, where my first one is just as good as my second one, and my third one, and my fourth one, with very little drop. So it used to go drop. Now it's kind of like, and that's the same thing with everything else. Grip strength, what I've noticed, I went to the climbing gym last year in like November, and I hadn't been there actually climbed in over a decade or more than that. And what was neat about that was it used to always, and this goes with what I just said, it used to be my best climbs, bouldering climbs, were at the very beginning, where I'd have all the strength and then it would drop off. When I went back to the climbing gym to climb, after being away for so long but having a lot of strength, is I noticed my first few routes sucked, and I'm like, oh man, well, this is something you can't expect to go and come off the street and be really good at. But I paid my fee, and so kind of hung out and walked around, and I started climbing a little bit more, and I actually got stronger and stronger. Whereas when I walked in the door, I could probably do a V2, V1, V2, and by the time I walked out the door, I was doing V3s, and I think I might have done a V5, if that's even possible, but definitely V3. But the neat thing is I actually got stronger and stronger as I stayed at the gym. Where normally when I was in my 20s doing that, I'd blow my wad, and that's cumulative training effect. Kind of same thing noticing here. It's like my body's got to acclimate a little bit, and then I can kind of keep it going until I just can't take it anymore. But yeah, that's one of the neat things I found about getting older. I've gotten strong. I get stronger over time during a workout, or at least the drop is negligible. So anyway, I'm gonna go get some lunch. I'm tired.